My whole background has been in software engineering in Silicon Valley. My degree is in resource economics, but when I got out of college, there was such a need for software programmers that anybody who could program could get a job, very quickly, basically. It was the beginning of the kind of affordable computing that you could have on your own desk, as opposed to having to have like a computer only in the office that was big and so forth. So I had a chance to take a job, and I took that, and that led to a whole career in software engineering. I've had a chance to do a lot of different things in my career: cloud and software as a service, big data, very complex distributed systems, programming tools. So I have a lot of different software types in my background. But I've been always worried about water and have been thinking about how could software help with the water situation around the world. And what I realized is that any problem that we can think of about water is going to take financing of infrastructure to try to address it, including just safe drinking water, also though including cleanup of water, security of water supplies with aquifer recharge, even dams or anything. So anything that we try to do to improve the water situation will take investment. And so what I decided to do is start a software startup that will help enable higher liquidity flows into water infrastructure.
Okay, and that's what you're working on.
And that's what I'm working on now. So I've started. My last job I gave notice about a year ago, and then 6 months ago I actually left that position. Okay. And so now I'm full-time working on my startup called Aqaix. Yeah.
And this is the first time you're working on water management topics directly. Right?
First time, yeah. Okay. So I'm new to water. Long time in software, but new to water.
Long time in software, but software is the future of water.
It is. Digital water, as they say. So exactly. Very much, yeah. Software's the future.
Okay.
And data.
And before this, you were working primarily in the financial sector. So touching upon.
At the last job I had, I worked for a bank, and I opened an innovation center for a large global bank, BNY Mellon. And banking is an interesting industry because it adopted computing and technology as one of the first industries early on to adopt it back in the 1950s.
So maybe they're like pioneers of that.
Well, they are in some ways, but because they invested early, they also got left with a lot of systems that are very expensive to change, and also because it's a regulated industry, it's even more expensive to change. And so banks have a mix of very advanced software and then not very advanced software, very kind of old-fashioned, and they use all of it. So banks are very interested in trying to modernize their infrastructure, and it's remarkably similar to water in a sense as being a regulated industry and needing new technology, new software technology, and new data. So there are some comparisons basically between the industries. Also, in my role with BNY Mellon at the Innovation Center, I got a chance to see inside a lot of other banks. Well, I didn't see inside them. They were visiting me to learn about the BNY Mellon transitions, and I learned a lot about how the industry is thinking about digital transitions to become a digital industry. Yeah. And so every bank now is thinking about how can we go digital. People today don't want to go into a branch office. They want to do mobile banking. They want to have mobile payments.
They're busy. They don't want to.
Yeah, and they want to use the communication devices they have, and have that be integrated into their life. Basically. So banks have been thinking very hard about how do we have a digital business, and how do we take our current infrastructure and our current business model and become digital. And that's exactly the kind of transition that water is going through now. Different technology, of course, and there are differences, but both industries are really looking at how do we become digital.
Okay, and going back more towards Aqaix, right? How does financing water infrastructure work today? how did it work a few years ago before this digitization of the world?
Well, first off, there's a lot of different types of infrastructure, and there have been many different types of financing patterns. Let me talk about a couple though. So one is for smaller projects in developing economies where somebody, a group of people realizes that we need to build a drinking water point or water sanitation, a piece of water sanitation infrastructure at a certain location, basically. The financing of that oftentimes, and nowadays many of those happen at a programmatic level where there won't just be one, but there will be, a collection of grants that will be funded within a country or across a number of countries by an NGO and a foundation and a development bank maybe. So this is one pattern where, and typically there is a development bank that will make a concessionary loan where they are, it is a loan, but they are comfortable with being kind of in a subordinate risk position to the senior positions, basically, and there may be a foundation involved as well. Maybe the foundation does the initial funding for the planning of the effort, and then there's a concessionary loan, and then eventually there's a commercial loan. But those types of projects have some difficulty repaying loans, and the question becomes, how can you create a whole market solution to that problem by creating an entrepreneur and by creating an ongoing viable business?
So it's a whole environment.
Create a whole environment. You can't just build a project. You have to, because there may not be much, there may not be the preconditions of success for that project, because it's not only about building a project and going live. Water projects have to last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And so they have to be sustainable. And so the operations and maintenance phase is very critical. And so you have to build all the preconditions of an economic capability that can sustain that, basically. And so now people are thinking not just about how do you build a project, but they're thinking how do you create a viable micro business there. And there's a lot that comes along with that. A sense of a price of water that is sustainable for people to afford, but that can justify some economic activity, repayment of loans, and operating it as a business. Having entrepreneurs or managers trained in how to run a business, things like that. So it gets into a lot of social things very quickly. Basically. Now it has a lot of returns, so of course too, social and environmental. But that's one typical pattern. In developed economies, it's a lot different. Well, maybe I'll talk about three patterns. A second pattern, even in developing economies, is a much larger scale kind of project that might be urban scale. Like if the city is building a new subdivision that might be 10, 20, 30,000, 50,000 people, they want to put in the water infrastructure for that, both sanitation and drinking water, piping, the water treatment, things like that. These are very large, expensive projects, hundreds of millions of dollars, can be, and things like that. Oftentimes in that situation, a special vehicle company is created as essentially a consortium of other operators and other companies. Basically, that financing pattern has certain types of challenges that come into play because it just gets complicated to have that holding company there, basically, and so forth. And then in developed economies, there's a third pattern where they're typically very large-scale infrastructure projects. They're typically adaptations or additions to or refurbishment of existing infrastructure, because most of the developed economies have already built their infrastructure, but they need to modernize it or they need to repair it. But oftentimes there is an established, can be both private or public, or sometimes those together. And like in the U.S. today, we're seeing a big trend towards moving from public to private because the public funding is subsiding, and in that situation, as the infrastructure ages and needs to be replenished, the funding is not there except for the private sector. And so there are companies that are going and they're buying the public assets from the public company, and they're actually paying the city to say, we will buy your assets and operate them as a public company, basically. So there's many different patterns of finance of water infrastructure. But those are some of the main ones.
And what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that are going to be facing in terms of like climate change or like you keep mentioning aging infrastructure? Are there more?
There's many challenges. Aging infrastructure is definitely very big. Basically, understanding. We still think about water in the wrong ways as a civilization, I think, and we don't think in terms of the whole cycle of water, in terms of the rainfall, the climatology. We also don't think in terms of the whole water catchment area and the whole basin. We don't have management plans that really do justice to how complicated it is and how many different uses there are of water and so forth. And so I think another big challenge is that we think of water in very disconnected ways and rather than holistically. Now that is starting to change, and technology is helping with that in terms of software that can model that, but that's a big problem. The climate change is very big. We'll see many different issues from sea level rise, also from the change in rainfall patterns. Some areas will become drier, some areas will become wetter, basically, and each of those have their own issues. In areas that are becoming drier, then it becomes important to figure out ways to conserve water, also to store water more effectively. In California, there's a lot of research going into groundwater recharge and aquifer recharge and how you can take water, whether you're reusing it or recycling it, or you're using just rain runoff or snow melt, but you're actually recharging the aquifers that have been depleted. And so that's an important kind of technology and capability that we're starting to explore. But also in other areas, climate change will mean there will be much more rainfall from these rain bombs, as they're called sometimes, of atmospheric rivers. And consequently, cities have to invest a lot more in storm resiliency and being able to handle higher water levels. That can be very, very expensive. Houston had a major storm last year, Hurricane Harvey. After Harvey, they estimated that to make Houston resilient would cost about $62 billion. Quite a lot of money. So those are some issues. Also, sea level rise is going to be very challenging around coastal
Miami
areas.
is facing some serious issues with sea level rise.
Many, and in fact, every place will. Is really what. If you look at, there are a lot of maps now that show sea level change based on the climatology predictions, and it's not pretty. It's really kind of worrisome, basically, when you look at how much impact that will be. And cities and areas that are thinking ahead are starting to think through how they plan to make their infrastructure resilient on that over the next 10, 20 years. So that's definitely a big challenge.
Yeah. And what's your vision on financing water infrastructure? How does Aqaix come into this?
So there are a couple different issues that lead to the current level of funding that goes into water infrastructure. One issue is that those projects are not seen as being sufficiently de-risked, is the word, or sufficient. They're seen as being too risky as an investment, basically, or maybe not well enough understood to be seen as safe, basically. And so
Are returns also a problem?
Returns are a problem, which is a dimension of the risk, basically. Like if you look at it and you realize that, well, there's no way that this project can be, that there's an economic base here for this project to be able to pay back a loan with interest. That's risk, basically. And so people will say, well, I'm not going to put money into that. But it also, though, even if there's a donor that wants to fund a project like that, they perceive risk too, because they're not really making a donation just to build a project. They're making a donation to move the needle and have an improvement on the environmental dimension, or they have a particular social return that they expect to get. For example, maybe they want higher participation of children in school and better attendance because the children won't be sick. Or maybe they want better participation of women in the workforce because the women don't have to take care of the kids, or the women aren't walking an hour too late to before to bring water to the family. So they want to see a particular social return, but they don't necessarily know that they can get their expected return from the project because the data systems aren't there that allow them to be able to monitor and verify the actual results that come from the project. And so one opportunity is to use data and information and integrate it so that both the economic and the social and the environmental impacts can all be seen and can all be verified. Another, though, is just simple financial engineering, both software instrumentation of the financial engineering and also the structuring of the engineering to allow the capital to come together in the right ways and to be understood by all participants, and to have that be easy, because it's one thing if you have a staff of 5, 10, 20, 30 people and you spend a year analyzing the project, you can de-risk it, but it costs money to do that, and it takes time, exactly, basically. And so if software and data can be used to bring the same level of visibility and understanding to a project we have today, or even a better level of understanding and visibility, but it can be done much, much, much faster, that's a big benefit. And it reduces the cost of assessing the project, and it makes it faster, and it makes it safer to invest money into the project.
Okay. And so concretely, how would it work? It's a software that analyzes project proposals for companies willing to invest in them or interested in investing?
That's right. And we use a few different forms of what is called machine learning or artificial intelligence. These terms are very poorly used by everybody, and people mix and match AI, machine learning, data science, and algorithms. But we have models, and we use those models to make sure that we have the right amount of information about the project and to supplement the normal amounts of information. Also, we can bring other data in when necessary to evaluate it. And with those models, we can then evaluate the expected returns, the risk of obtaining the economic returns. We can evaluate the expected environmental and social returns and things like that. And so we have the models that allow us to quickly and easily assess the risk of the project and the returns of the project. We also have ways.
So you created a sort of a rating.
That's right. And so that risk can be represented as a rating, as a score, basically, in each of those dimensions. So we can say, here's the environmental score, here's the social score, here's the risk score on the economic, and so forth. We also are developing a capability that allows the visibility into the capital stack or into the capital structure of the project. These projects oftentimes go through a whole phasing of capital investments and even OpEx investments, not just capital, where there's certain amounts of money. And so when a new amount of money comes in, everyone needs to understand the position of that funding, of that capital in relation to the other funding, and the agreements among all the parties about who will have a senior position in terms of risk and who will have subordinate positions and things like that. And so making it quickly and easily understood what capital structures are is really important. Also, we can take that information and we can record it in ways, in smart contracts, basically, that can then be associated with data that can then be used for alerting when certain contract contingencies may be at risk of being violated, basically. Like, so for example, typically a water treatment project will have a contract contingency that is attached to the output of the water, so many million liters per day, and so forth. And if with an Internet of Things data feed, it's very easy to actually monitor that output and be able to say, oh, you're tracking below that contract contingency. And so with modern data integration capabilities and APIs, it becomes quite possible to build these very interesting dashboards that let you establish the expected risk of the project and then track the actual risk as it's happening. So those are some things that we're working on. The software we're still a startup and our software is still being built. It's not yet in production, but we're very excited about what we're doing. There's a lot of things we can do.
I think you're totally right. The water industry is becoming more digital from the consumer all the way down to the pipes. And software is probably one of the main things that will help water utilities to use the data.
And they're investing in that relatively heavily. Like in the U.S., advanced metering and infrastructure, AMI, basically, is very promising because not only can it help drive conservation activity, but it can also identify leakage, which is a very large problem in water. Leakage and actually theft of water, even basically, it's a big problem, and AMI can help with that. But it also can, with those two things, it can change the economic model, the economic capability. AMI is an interesting investment because it oftentimes can improve the fundamental economics and the ability to repay a loan, and that's all about software data. So there's definitely a whole wave of software coming to the water industry.
Okay, so if you were to leave a message to future water professionals, what would it be?
I would say network as heavily as you can, because water is very interesting because there are so many different dimensions to it: chemical, physical, social, economic, and each of those facets is very, very complex, and they're also very interrelated between one facet to the other facet, basically. So the economics are very related to the chemistry of water, and as our chemical capabilities become greater, and we have the ability to detect dangerous chemicals in water now for human health, we start having some difficult decisions to make about what is the right amount that we should allow in this, because now we actually have the technology to detect a part per billion that we never had a chance to, basically. That leads to, well, how much can we afford to take out? What should the target level for that chemical be from a human health perspective? But that in some ways becomes an economic question as much as a health question. So at the end of the day, my advice to water professionals would be build your network so that you can connect with other professionals in the other disciplines, so that we can take a one view of water, a more holistic view of water, because you can't just think of it from the perspective of a civil engineer. You can't just think of it from the perspective of a chemist or a software engineer or an economist. It takes teams of people to solve these problems together.
So basically go out and meet the different faces of water.
That's right. That's a great way to put it, yeah. Much more elegant than I put it.